Hello everyone and welcome to the first of our reviews of the classes. Now what this series is going to cover is how the classes got on in patch 3.0 in Shadow of Revan throughout the entire expansion, and we'll end with some of the changes that we'd like to see in patch 4.0, which is of course Knights of the Fallen Empire going forward. Now they have stated that the goal for classes was to speed up a lot of the classes and make them more mobile, certainly. And the class that we're beginning with started that in Shadow of Revan. We are beginning with the Commando, or the Mercenary. Now, regardless of which spec you played, this class was awesome. Okay, this has been the best expansion for this class. If you're a healer, OP as hell at the beginning. We have been nerfed slightly, patch 3.3. Did nerf us a little bit, but we still in a very good situation. Certainly mobility wise, we are a pretty good healer. We've got a lot of instant casts that we can chain together, of course. We can do that burst healing. What we do, that is our thing. It still is. We've been nerfed a little bit in our burst healing, but we can still pull off very bursty heals. I think we're somewhere behind the Sage now. We're still in front of the Scoundrel, but a little bit behind the Sage, because Wandering Mend is ridiculous in terms of it's overpowered. It's just so overpowered for burst AoE healing. For AoE healing, we are pretty good, actually. Now, the footage you're looking at is a Mercenary, and yes, we are solo healing Sparky, and we do end up having to solo heal Bulo. Stay tuned in, see if we can make it solo heal Bulo in story mode. Obviously, we're not going to solo heal hard mode, but again, it felt like a hard mode. We were popping the cooldowns like it was a hard mode in the end, and that was the strength of the Mercenary. It was one of the most versatile healers in 3.0. It was very, very useful. AoE was decent, again, on the move with things like Successive Treatment or Progressive Scan if you're a Mercenary. It was a very good heal on the go. Again, what it did was it was a channeled heal. It started out healing the primary target and then spread its healing as the channel went on. So of course your primary target got the most healing. Generally that was the tank. It was very, very useful on fights like Torque, where we saw when the fire came out and you had melee DPS, you would always save your Successive Treatment for that, because as soon as that fire comes out, you press that key and again it radiates to both tanks and the melee DPS. So it was a very, very good AoE heal. Can be used on the move if you take the Forced March talent, which we're going to take for hard mode, especially fights like Sword Squadron, Underlurker. You were definitely taking them while you were moving behind the rock on Underlurker. Very important to keep your AoE healing up. Of course, you had Colto Missile, or Colto Bomb, which was increased to hit 8 targets instead of 4. That was always our Achilles heel when it came to AoE healing, was we could only ever heal half the raid. Now we can hit 8 targets. The hot is insignificant, really. It's mostly its initial burst heal is where it does most of its healing, but it is nice that it leaves the puddle of Colto on the floor, gives you a nice little hot. In terms of single target healing, we were just insane at the start of the expansion. Absolutely insane. OP. We were the OP healer. It was ridiculous how much healing we could put out in such a short amount of time. Again, with cooldowns, you could chain together 4 heals in a row. What you would do is pop your emergency scan and then get your instant cast, what was it called again? Healing scan, that was what it was called. Advanced medical probe for the Commando. Get that off. Then you could pop your supercharge. Then you could pop Tech Override, which had 2 charges if you took the utility, which again you were going to do if you were tank healing. You took that and then you could fire off another 2 healing scans, instant cast, because again it removed the cooldown of healing scan when you pop your supercharge. So there you go, 4 instant cast heals in a row made us a beast for burst healing, for tank healing. The tanks took damage. Press a couple of buttons. I mean, yeah, the last 2 were tied to cooldowns, and we did have quite lengthy cooldowns, but generally, if we timed it right, if you got the skill was in timing it right to always have it available, having that burst available, and of course you didn't have to heal 1 target with those 4 instant casts. You could go and hit 2 different tanks, or you could heal 4 different targets with that. Again, it made us very bursty, and again, slight nerf in 3.0, but overall, still, we are a very good healer. We're still viable for HM, put it that way. our mobility and our instant cast heals. Despite their slight nerfing, Healing Scan has had a slight nerf, but again, it's still very viable. We have to think a bit more about our energy now, and then we have to use things like Rapid Scan to get our energy to focus. Yeah, Rapid Scan, because it reduces the energy cost of our Healing Scan. So you have to focus more on that right now, especially when we're doing progression and it gets a bit tight. Can get a bit tight for energy management or ammo management or heat management, depending on which I still call it ammo, to be honest, on the guard. Remember, it was a 12-point ammo scale. That was annoying. That was really annoying, the Commando. Again, we also had the Bounty Hunter uses heat. Which again, Bounty Hunter has no heat, can do tons of healing. 100% heat can do very little healing because, you know, we still also got rapid shots, which is very, very good. Supercharge, very good. And again, Supercharge Clarity, which is available for all specs, which was our raid cooldown, which was a very nice raid cooldown. Increased the alacrity of all the raid members by 10% for a few seconds. Pretty useful, especially in burst phases, you know, when you need to get that. You need to get those hits in quickly, get those heals out quickly. So very, very useful. Tend to use it most of all at the start of the fight when everyone had their cooldowns available and they could just go to town on the boss. Fights like Bulow, they were very, very useful. Always just have an argument in guild as to which one get to waste their 10 stacks of supercharge on it, which was interesting. He's always the healer, because we never really needed burst healing. Usually at the start of the fight, you know, DPS need the burst damage at the beginning, so again it contributed to burst. We'll move on to the DPS specs. Arsenal / Gunnery was pretty damn epic this expansion. The biggest problem with it in previous expansions was its lack of mobility, and boy did they cure it. We got a new ability. We got Blazing Bolts was our new ability, which basically just replaced Unload. Blazing Bolts or Bolt Storm. Basically, replace your full auto / unload. Had a cool animation, really cool, really liked the animation for it, and it was basically, that's where you used it, basically where whatever you use unload, and you got a utility, again, Forced March or Thrill of the Hunt, let you use it on the move, which was awesome, and it was required if you were raiding. It was definitely required because you were moving around a lot. What it allowed you to do was keep your DPS up, keep the uptime up while moving. So again, fights like Bulow, fights like Sword Squadron where you got a red circle on you, Bulow and Mass Barrage came out, you barely lost any DPS. Because again, you could just keep it up. Again, you got the Vortex Bolt or Priming Shot, which again made your Grav Round or Tracer Missile instant cast. So again, there was another thing to it gone. Bear in mind, you also got Curtain of Fire as the buff as well to Bolt Storm. Again, you could use it on the proc, you could use it off the proc. It didn't really matter because the Curtain of Fire proc would get your Bolt Storm off cooldown again, so that was very, very useful. It's always a good idea to get as many Bolt Storms out as possible. Then we had Assault spec, which is starting to make a comeback now. It is with gear, it really does. I mean, before it was a bit behind, but now that we've got that bit better gear, that bit more surge, that bit more alacrity in our gear, it is making a comeback because it does scale very nicely with gear and is very, very useful on certain fights. Particularly always fights with target switching, dot spec tends to be the best on. Fights like Lurker as well can be pretty useful on that fight, although Gunnery is still good. But yeah, the Commando had its best expansion. Okay, any three of the specs were definitely viable. Again, you look at the world first kill of Revan, it was all bounty hunters. It was the whole group bounty hunters was what they did it with. That's what they did it with. The world first Revan HM kill we're talking about. Again, an all bounty hunter group to deal with the mechanics. Again, hydraulic overrides, very, very good. Okay, one of the most powerful abilities in the game in this expansion. We had a lot of things, Lurker HM especially, with those ads. If we didn't have a Sentinel, we needed Commandos. Everyone had to be a trooper. I mean, again, the other trooper bounty hunter spec had them as well. You know, again, the Vanguard and the Power Tech. They had them as well. Very, very useful. Again, make you immune to knockbacks and other physics effects while it was active. You did have a utility that could increase its duration as well, which were essential, because again, those ads in Lurker would always, if they were up, they'd put a slow on you, and you really had to get to the circle when Rage Storm was going, because 2 ticks killed you. in hard mode. You just died in seconds in hard mode. So again, very, very useful. Unless you have a Sentinel. If you have a Sentinel in the group, they can prop Transcendence. And it worked pretty well for getting rid of the movement purge. You wanted them to use Transcendence whenever you had to hide behind the rocks, whenever the collapse had finished, and the Rage Storm started, because Rage Storm fucking hurt, right? It really fucking hurt. Any bad sides to the Trooper? PvP, they were still piss weak. The Commando, still the weakest PvP class. Again, they just do not have an ability that stops them from getting focused, and their defensive cooldowns, although they were slightly buffed, are still pretty weak. Cold to Overload is still weak. It's not going to save you. Most burst damage can get through it in PvP. Basically, if you drop below 45% health, it will heal you until you get 45% health, or until it wears off. But it doesn't heal you fast enough. That's the problem. It's not like something like Focus Defense that the Guardians have, where the more damage they take, the more healing they get, which is pretty cool, actually, that aspect. Yeah, and you've got your shield as well, which again, you can take a utility that gives you 20% more healing received. I'd say still the weakest of the healers when it comes to survivability. Certainly in PvP, some people argue, yeah, they've got heavy armor. PvP, armor doesn't really mean anything. So PvE, they were the heroes. PvP, they were just brought back down to earth with a thud. Sometimes in PvE, in certain fights like Revanite Commanders and Bulow, they did suffer a few survivability issues, particularly the healers when they got focused by the Drunken Pirates. If your DPS weren't quite quick enough with the barrels, then you would maybe get that. You would maybe get that bit hit. I mean, Scoundrels can take the focus off themselves by stealthing out. Sages have a bubble. Commandos need some better defensive cooldowns. That's what they need going forward in 4.0. They also need ability pruning. We need to get rid of certain things. There are certain things that we don't use anymore. Fusion missile, do we ever use that? Really, I know it's a dot, but honestly, it just seems to be very, very expensive and a waste of a keybind. Also, power shot, I don't see much use of that in any spec now. I don't know if you use it in assault spec or innovative ordnance spec. I don't really play that spec very much, but again, it's time to at least get rid of them all, or consolidate them into something like Gravity Round. Maybe make Gravity Round available for all the specs, for all the bounty hunter specs, rather than just gunnery. And you know, oh shit, we got mixed up now. We'll stick to the Commando terminology. We'll say Grav Round is available for gunnery, right? Say it's Grav Round. It's available for all three, and it does different things depending on what it's available for. So you get Grav Round. Also get rid of Grenade Round as well. Get rid of that. It's pointless. If healer spec, it will function just like Grenade Round. Okay, it won't have a cast time, and it will knock down an enemy. If you're a healer spec, if you are gunnery spec, it'll function the same. Okay, it'll do the armor debuff, it'll give you the demo round buff as well, and again it will proc Curtain of Fire. It'll do the same thing. In the dot spec, it will again be a dot as well. It could function as a dot. So you've taken 3 key bindings and turned them into 1, because there's too many buttons. I think that's the problem with it. Going forward, before we get any new abilities, there's just too many buttons with the Commando. I think that's his biggest problem. Right, now a lot of things we just don't use. The sticky grenade I'd like to keep because it is useful. Again, useful for emergency CC. If you're a healer and you're getting attacked by a weak enemy, you can, you know, stun it for a few seconds. So again, pretty useful. And it's useful if things run away from you in PvP as well. So if you want to just stick a grenade to them. So it does have its uses, sticky grenade, but I would like to see a bit less abilities. Just get rid of them and just have one ability. You can have Grav Round. Grav Round could be your go-to ability. It is in gunnery spec, but you know, it would be nice to just have that in all 3 specs, and just change its functionality depending on the spec that you choose. You could even change its name if you wanted, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it would be, I think it would be an interesting thing. Anything new that we'd really want? I don't know if there's anything that we really need. DPS wise, gunnery, it doesn't really need much. I mean, it doesn't really need anything massive. Maybe little bit better AoE maybe, because the AoE maybe reduce the cooldown of mortar volley or get something to proc mortar volley, so that we can maybe get a second mortar volley out, or maybe the idea of putting 2 mortar volleys out, or the idea of having, say, a turret that you could set up. You know, a commando could set up a little turret, and the turret could mimic your actions for a few seconds. It'd be a good healing one as well. Again, not make it available for all 3. You know, say it, if you're gunnery spec, it will do blazing bolts. That's what it'll do if you set it out, and it'll single target. If you are dot spec, it will throw out dots onto multiple targets. If you are healer spec, it will throw out heals. It will essentially be a second hammer shot. Essentially, bounty hunters could summon a droid as well. A little probe droid could come and fall, a little floating kind of like Goto, a kind of little one of them kind of droids, like KOTOR from KOTOR 2. Like one of them would be kind of cool. And it would do some healing, it would do some damage. It'd be a nice way to sort of automate kind of some damage. Would be quite nice, I think. Something like that would really change how the class play. It wouldn't massively change it, but it would help you out. I mean, you could, again, you could maybe even set it up to do different things. You could set it up to do AoE. It'll give you an extra mortar volley. It'll give you an extra death from above. Commando should definitely be a turret. Bounty hunter should be like a droid thing, a little droid thing that comes to help you out. But yeah, that's the only real changes I'd like to see. I think the class is functioning very well as it is right now. Will they nerf it? They might do. I get a sneaking suspicion that it might get a big nerf in 4.0, but I don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know anything about 4.0. So it'd be nice if they don't take away our mobility. Hydraulic overrides may get nerfed because it is OP as hell. Bear in mind we'll be doing the same raids as before. So, you know, fights like SOA will work pretty well. Gunnery will work really well in SOA. Well, for SOA, for Guards as well, it'll work really nicely. Because again, our movement, Guards is going to be, we'll be able to channel blazing bolts while jumping across platforms. And that's going to be the skill for the commandos. Again, the healers will be able to channel progressive scan when they're going across as well. So SOA is going to be ridiculously easy for healers. Because, again, it's fall damage. Fall damage is percentage damage, unless they put circles on the platforms, which I get the feeling that they'll do, because that's how BioWare design encounters. They just put circles in random places. Bet they'll do that. They'll put circles on the platforms, won't they? So you'll have to kind of move around as you're going down on SOA. I'm calling that right here, right now. That's what I'm calling, that they're going to do that. So anyway, that is all for this video. So I think the class is in a very good place. They've had a very good expansion. It's been the best expansion overall for them. They are a staple within a raiding team. They are PvP. They're still pretty weak, but they are. You're gonna raid with commandos. Okay, you're a commando. You're looking for a raiding guild. You're gonna be welcomed in there, regardless of the spec. Okay, healers definitely want them. DPS, they're very, very good right now. So overpowered, the troopers in general, troopers and bounty hunters in general. So next up we'll cover the Guardian. We'll cover the big dick Guardian for the next video. Again, we're going to do a little straw poll as well for which class we should main in 4.0. Considering the Commando is a main, not really, I don't think so. Again, we've just spent too long as a mercenary. Again, we're going Republic side in the next expansion, by the way. So we'll do the Guardian / Warrior. Again, we'll cover all 3 specs: tank, the tank spec, the DPS spec. So there you go. That's my views on the Guardian. Very, very good class at the moment. It's in a very good place, and that should make you worry for 4.0. Generally, we worry about classes in good places in 4.0. So anyway, that is all for this video. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you again soon, and goodbye.